I believe that a Christian view, and there are many Christian views of forgiveness, is that forgiveness is not just about getting over bad feelings for myself. That really forgiveness is an altruistic gift that I can give to someone who doesn't deserve that gift, but nevertheless it's other-oriented. It's not just about making my feelings better. I think that forgiveness is interactive. So it's not something that I do out of subservience. I forgive you because I'm afraid of you. It's not something that I magnanimously bestow upon you because I'm over you. The apologies and repentance and making restitution interact with whether a person gives a gift of forgiveness. So I think it's transactional instead of being a top-down, bottom-up type of experience. So in Christianity, making a decision to forgive, I believe, is something that the religion requires, something Jesus said, if you forgive, your Father in heaven will forgive you. If you don't forgive, your Father in heaven won't forgive you. So that might make some people have a very self-interested motive for forgiving. And you know, I mean, fine if they forgive and are able to change their behavior. There's a lot of benefits that come from that. It is a temptation to be self-enhancing. We've actually done studies that are parametric studies, meaning we manipulate the amount of time systematically that people spend trying to forgive. And we find out that if people forgive for their own benefit, they get all of the benefit they're ever going to get within 10 minutes. Doesn't matter if they continue for 8 hours. But if they forgive because they want to bless the person who hurt them, there's actually a linear relationship between the amount of time they spend trying to forgive and the amount of forgiveness that they'll experience. And that also feeds into the amount of relief of depression, the amount of relief of anxiety, and the amount of hope that they gain from participating in trying to forgive.
Do you have to be in close proximity to somebody for the action of forgiveness to count?
I guess it depends on the situation. But I don't think so. Neither a physical proximity or a time proximity. As a Turkish Muslim, I carry a lot of guilt, and one of the things that I ask forgiveness is Armenian genocide. I don't live in Turkey anymore. I don't live in a close proximity of an Armenian community, and that was about 100 years ago. But I carry incredible amount of guilt and sense of repentance. 5 daily prayers. There are a set of things that I ask forgiveness for. An Armenian genocide, because me, my grandparents, people that I know, who I have lineage with, has been involved in this. But of course, tying back to our communal sense, collective peace is one of the primary goals of that sense of forgiveness, establishing peace as a community. Especially if you are trying to ask forgiveness, receive forgiveness, or grant forgiveness for people that you are in close proximity, that you see them all the time, like for example, Israeli-Palestinian conflict, or the post-apartheid South Africa, where people who have hurt each other so bad, and now they are destined to live together. That requires a whole different level of forgiveness, with a lot of sense of justice, with a lot of sense of reparation, with a lot of sense of acknowledgement. But I don't think that should be a condition. I don't think that should be prioritized. I think what we did as an American to Native Americans, we don't live in a close proximity, or it happened a long time ago, or our colonial legacy as Western civilization in many different parts of the world. We may not live in that close spaces anymore. It may have been done a long time ago, but people who we have hurt still live the consequences and legacy of those actions, and therefore we should bring ourselves spiritually and emotionally close enough to keep asking that forgiveness, or be in a set of action committed to that act of forgiveness.
I think that forgiveness is something that we experience inside our skin, and therefore I don't have to be in an interaction with someone. I can forgive someone who's died. There's no proximity there. I can forgive someone that hates me, that has moved to the other side of the world to get away from me. So there's not a necessity of being nearby. In fact, being nearby probably as often as not makes forgiveness harder rather than easier. So with my wife, being nearby really helps. But if I'm really in an active conflict with someone, having to face that person daily and be provoked might hurt my forgiveness.
How much Christian forgiveness is in the Islamic narrative? Or in another way of putting it, is there a hybrid form of forgiveness in Islam that borrows from Christianity?
The short answer is yes. Islam, both theologically and historically, grew up in a Judeo-Christian Middle East and heavily influenced. And sometimes Christian impact and influence is what Islam borrowed and maybe developed from Christianity. In some aspects of forgiveness, you can see that. For example, the concept of divine forgiveness. Very much that language has been borrowed and developed in the Muslim tradition. But sometimes Christianity's influence has been sort of indirect. Islam looked at original sin and rejected it. And in reaction and in rejection of the Christian concept, sort of developed certain sensitivities, avoided certain languages, and develop a vocabulary or built fences around any kind of innate, inherent brokenness, emphasize on fitrah, emphasize on the innate, inherent goodness of humanity and the creation. So Christianity or Christian theology's impact on Islam in general, forgiveness in particular, sometimes basically incorporating what's Christian into Islam, or sometimes rejecting it, and in that rejection developing a language somewhat reactionary.
I think the Christian narrative and the Islamic narrative have many similarities. There are some notable differences in terms of the way that we treat when sin starts. But in both cases, I think we share enough of common religious history and theology that there are many, many similarities, more than people might think.